In the early years of the Qing dynasty, two merchants were traveling through the countryside of Shandong province. They had been on the road for 3 days. The journey had taken them across dusty paths, lonely villages, and long stretches of forest where even the birds seemed reluctant to sing. As evening approached, a cold wind began to sweep across the fields. The older merchant, Zhang, pulled his cloak tighter around his shoulders. "We need to find shelter before dark," he said. His younger companion nodded. In those days, traveling at night was dangerous. Bandits roamed the roads, wild animals wandered the hills. But many travelers feared something else entirely. Across northern China, old stories were passed from one generation to the next. Stories of strange figures seen on deserted roads after sunset. Stories of voices calling from empty fields. Stories of travelers who vanished without a trace after following a lantern in the darkness. Zhang had never believed such tales. Ghost stories, he often said, were nothing more than inventions created to frighten children. Yet, as the last light faded behind the distant mountains, even he found himself walking a little faster. Darkness has a way of making every story feel possible. Fortunately, just as night was beginning to fall, they spotted a small roadside inn. The building looked ancient. Its wooden walls leaned slightly to one side. Several roof tiles were missing. A faded lantern hung beside the entrance, swaying gently in the wind. The place looked tired, but it was still better than sleeping beneath the open sky. Inside, they were greeted by an elderly innkeeper with a weary face and watchful eyes. After serving them a simple meal, the old man hesitated before speaking. "There is something you should know." The merchants looked at him. "The inn is full." The younger merchant sighed. "We've come a long way. Surely there is some corner where we can sleep." The innkeeper lowered his voice. "There is one room left." Then he paused. "But a corpse is being kept there until the family arrives tomorrow." Silence settled over the table. The younger merchant nearly dropped his bowl. The old man quickly added, "The man died only yesterday. His relatives couldn't reach the village before dark. The body is sealed and covered. It will be removed in the morning." Neither traveler liked the idea, but the roads outside were already swallowed by darkness. Reluctantly, they agreed. The innkeeper picked up an oil lamp and led them down a narrow hallway. The room was small and cold. Against one wall stood a wooden platform. Upon it lay a body covered entirely by a white burial cloth. The shape beneath the fabric was unmistakably human. The air smelled faintly of incense and old wood. The innkeeper placed the lamp on the floor. "Try to get some rest." Then he left. The door closed. The room fell silent. The younger merchant kept glancing toward the corpse. Finally, he whispered, "How long do you think he's been dead?" Zhang frowned. "Stop staring at it." Yet he found himself looking as well. Perhaps it was only the flickering lamp. Perhaps it was his imagination. But for a moment, he had the uncomfortable feeling that the face beneath the cloth was somehow turned toward them, watching, waiting. The room seemed colder than before. Neither man spoke again. Eventually, they lay down on opposite sides of the room. The lamp flickered. Wind whispered outside. The corpse remained perfectly still. Hours passed. Little by little, exhaustion overcame them. At some point after midnight, Zhang suddenly woke up. At first, he didn't know why. The room was nearly dark. The lamp had almost burned out. Then he heard it creak, a slow sound, like wood rubbing against wood. Zhang opened his eyes wider. The sound came again. Creak, creak. His heart began to pound. Slowly, he turned his head toward the platform. The platform was empty. For several seconds, his mind refused to understand what he was seeing. The corpse was gone. Then movement appeared in the darkness. A tall figure slowly emerged beside the platform. The corpse stood upright. Its body looked stiff and unnatural. The burial cloth hung loosely around its shoulders. Its skin was pale as wax. Its eyes were open, and it was staring directly at him. Every muscle in Zhang's body froze. The corpse took a step forward. Creak. Another step. creak. Its joints moved with a terrible stiffness. The younger merchant was still asleep. Zhang wanted to shout, wanted to run, wanted to wake his companion, but terror had stolen his voice. The corpse kept moving, closer, closer, until only a few steps separated them. Then instinct finally took over. Zhang leaped to his feet and ran for the door. The corpse lunged after him. Suddenly, it moved much faster than before. The door burst open. Zhang raced into the hallway. Behind him came the sound of rapid footsteps. The innkeeper appeared from another room carrying a lantern. The moment he saw the corpse, his face turned white. Someone screamed. Doors slammed shut. The entire inn erupted into panic. Yet the corpse ignored everyone else. It wanted only Zhang. The chase continued through the building. At the end of the hallway stood a heavy wooden door leading into the courtyard. Zhang threw himself through it. Cold night air struck his face. Moonlight covered the courtyard in silver. The corpse followed. Its white burial cloth fluttered behind it like a ghostly banner. Zhang's lungs burned. His legs felt weak. He knew he could not keep running forever. Desperately, he searched for somewhere to hide. Then he spotted a storage shed near the far wall. Without hesitation, he rushed inside and slammed the door shut. For a moment, everything was quiet. Perhaps he had escaped. Perhaps the thing had lost track of him. Then, bang, the entire door shook. Bang, another impact. The wooden frame groaned. A crack appeared. Zhang looked around wildly. There were no weapons, no windows, no way out. Then he saw a large wooden chest in the corner. It was the only hiding place available. He climbed inside and pulled the lid shut. Darkness swallowed him. Outside, the door finally splintered apart. Heavy footsteps entered the shed. Then came silence. A horrible silence. Zhang sat motionless inside the chest. The air was hot and stale. Sweat rolled down his face. He dared not wipe it away. He barely dared to breathe. Minutes passed. Or perhaps only seconds. He couldn't tell. The silence was almost worse than the chase. Because he didn't know where the corpse was. Maybe it had left. Maybe it was standing beside the chest. Maybe it was leaning over the lid, listening for the sound of his breathing. His chest tightened. He desperately wanted fresh air. Every instinct told him to lift the lid. Yet he knew doing so might cost him his life. Then he heard something. A faint scraping sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Slowly, something moved across the outside of the chest. Zhang felt every hair on his body stand up. The sound grew closer. Scratch, scratch, scratch. He suddenly realized what he was hearing. Fingernails. Something outside was dragging its nails across the wood. The sound moved upward, then stopped directly above his head. A moment later, creak. The lid shifted slightly downward, as though something heavy had climbed onto the chest. Zhang nearly screamed. Only sheer terror kept him silent. He pressed both hands over his mouth. The darkness around him felt endless. That night became the longest night of his life. Years later, he would still wake from nightmares and find himself remembering that moment. The crushing darkness, the scraping nails, the unbearable certainty that something was waiting just above him. Eventually, distant voices echoed through the shed. The innkeeper, the other guests, villagers carrying lanterns. At some point, dawn had arrived. The lid was finally opened. Fresh air rushed inside. Zhang stumbled out, shaking uncontrollably. Nearby lay the corpse, motionless, covered once again by the white burial cloth. Exactly where it should have been, as though nothing had happened. The villagers examined the body. No one could explain what had occurred. Some believed an evil spirit had possessed the corpse. Others blamed a wandering demon. A few insisted Zhang had imagined everything in a nightmare. Yet when they inspected the wooden chest, they found deep scratches carved into the surface. marks that no frightened man hiding inside could possibly have made. Years passed. The story spread throughout the region. Travelers continued to speak of the strange night at the old inn, and whenever someone asked Zhang whether the tale was true, he always gave the same answer. There are things in this world that should remain dead. After saying those words, he would refuse to speak of the matter ever again. And no one who heard the story ever forgot it.